What are weird jobs nobody knows about but they pay well? I once met a professional ice sculptor who made a killing at corporate events and weddings. It's a niche skill, but the pay is pretty impressive. I make teeth on a computer. I use a CAD/CAM program to design crowns and bridges for dental laboratories. I work remotely and do pretty well. When you work as a government employee or contractor with a top secret clearance, after you retire or get laid off, you can work as an escort within classified facilities called SIFs. Escorts are needed when an uncleared person needs to work in the SCIF. For example, it might be a top secret data center that needs an air conditioner repair. All the escort has to do is watch the repairman and stay with them throughout the visit. They usually just drag a chair over and sit there while getting paid damn good money. My dad was a master flavorist. He made artificial flavors for candy, beverages, and lots of other things. He made a lot of money during his career. Pet food companies have a staff of human people to taste test the food. For obvious reasons, this pays pretty well, I hear. You know how they have repo men to repossess cars of borrowers not keeping up with payments? Well, they also have repo men for yachts and private jets. I talked to an older guy with a pilot's license who was getting a lot of calls to join an outfit that does this, but he said he wasn't crazy about finding out what kind of security a guy in possession of a $10 million plane would have and what they would do to keep it. An old neighbor of mine was a picture hanging specialist contracted by many museums. He made $75K a year at the time, about $150K adjusted for inflation. I had a boyfriend in Oklahoma who got state wages for going into backwoods and down dirt roads to find trash people dumped. His job was to report the trash for others to clean up, but most importantly, he had to sift through the trash to find anything that would identify who dumped the trash. I went with him a few times and I felt like a detective. It was quite fun. You ever heard of an urban bat tracker? That's me. I'm the guy who steps into the night when the city sleeps, tracking the unseen ballet of bats against the backdrop of empty offices and starlit skies. My job is a blend of science and solitude. Armed with detectors that translate bat echolocation into something audible, I map their flight, study their behavior, and contribute to research that's vital for urban ecosystem conservation. It's not just a job, it's a commitment to understanding these misunderstood creatures of the night. The experience is surreal. As the world winds down, my work begins. I walk through parks and alleyways, under bridges, and alongside rivers. The city's nocturnal pulse becomes my soundtrack, a car horn here, a distant laughter there, all underlined by the constant, rhythmic clicking of my bat detector. Each night is a lesson in patience and awe. Bats, these tiny, agile creatures, dart and dive in the darkness, almost like shadows flitting at the edge of my vision. There's a poetry in their flight, a kind of silent music that fills the night air. The pay is decent, surprisingly. It's a niche field, and expertise in urban wildlife ecology can be hard to come by. But it's not the money that keeps me here. It's the moments of connection, the feeling of being a part of something bigger and wilder, right in the heart of the city. Sometimes the most extraordinary things are hidden in plain sight, waiting to be discovered in the quiet symphony of the night. Not that weird, but lesser known, I'm a focus group moderator, which means I sit in a conference room with a group about 8 people and lead a discussion about whatever product or brand I'm working for. The groups are usually 90 minutes or 2 hours tops, and for in-person, I get paid $2,000 per group. Virtual groups are a little less, but still excellent rates. I was once a pine cone harvester. A helicopter would cut off the tops of trees and bring them to us to pick off the pine cones, which would then go to tree planters to germinate and plant. $35 to fill a 5-gallon bucket. Experienced pickers would fill 2.5 an hour, but the sap getting all over your clothes, skin, and hair is very annoying and a big deterrent for most. I play trumpet for a touring Broadway show. Not that weird, but it's amazing how few people know there are real musicians playing live below the stage. I don't even know the name for this, but a friend takes care of rich people cars for living. Pick up the car for maintenance, takes the car from A to B, etc. He doesn't actually work on the cars, just works for rich people that don't have time to take care of the car. Is super well paid, is on first name basis with some of the richest people on the country. Apparently isn't easy to find trustworthy people to take care of your cars, plus access to your properties and so on. Ship pilot, especially ice pilots. You need a decent amount of experience, but it's not unheard of for people's day rates to be in the multiple thousands. And if anything goes wrong, technically and legally it's the captain's fault. I'm often told that people have no idea my job exists and I make pretty good money, $145,000 this year. I trade energy between different power companies on the West Coast, send instructions to power plants and then schedule the energy to flow along transmission lines. The schedule is part of the reason for the high salary. I work 12-hour shifts and in a 5-week period I work 7-day shifts, 7 overnight shifts and have 21 days off. I do this from home more than half of the time, so that's a sweet perk too. Edit, should have disclosed that I live in a HCOL area, which does inflate my compensation a little bit. Edit 2, since there may be some curiosity, power does not trade like stocks in a stock exchange, for the most part. Stock shares do not evenly equate to energy for many reasons. I also do not benefit from the profitability of trades I make, but the utilities power customers do. The main reason here is because what if I just didn't secure enough power and people are blacked out because I deemed it non-profitable? My P&L is tracked solely for performance appraisals and promotions. My compensation is 85% annual salary and 15% annual cash bonus as long as we do not lose money for our customers. I'm a greens person in the film industry. I'm responsible for building and maintaining the plants and trees on a set. My aunt and her daughter both do seasonal work as hand pollinators, harvesters. Certain types of plants, saffron, vanilla orchids, have very small windows of time when you can pollinate or harvest from them, a couple of hours to a half day, so the growers need people who can work fast and delicately to hand pollinate or harvest whatever plant they are growing. Plus, if the plant is small and they grow in the ground, it's a lot of bending to get down and do whatever has to be done, especially if they have a whole field of tiny flowers and you are using tweezers or a tiny paintbrush. My auntie and cousin have been doing it for years now. They always get called back and make a lot of money for 1 to 2 days work. I had a window screen repair business for a few years. Worked by myself out of my basement, and when it was nice out of my truck at people's homes. I probably only made 50-60K annually, but I only worked a few days a week, a couple hours a day. Work-life balance was pretty nice. Bovine artificial insemination technicians. In an area with a large number of farms, a tech can make $100,000 plus company vehicle and benefits. In addition, these jobs are in rural areas, so cost of living is generally lower. I once knew a guy that bred crickets. He sold them to pet stores. He also collected and sold the cricket poop as fertilizer. I go to horse shows and people pay me to look at their horse every 2 hours in the middle of the night and make sure it's not dead. In the meantime, I make horses look pretty for the show ring in the morning. I can walk away from 3 days of work with over $3,000. IT auditor. I work with financial auditors to ensure that businesses are doing what they say they are in terms of data protection, access control, cybersecurity, software development, etc. It is a lot of what are your policies and procedures, do you follow them, do they map to NIST/ISO/other frameworks and best practices? There is a lot of asking questions and ensuring people are doing what they should be doing. Occasionally, you discover fraud or incompetence and get a VP fired. It requires decent IT skills, lots of continuing education, strong soft skills, and a solid bullshit detector. I work mostly remote. I get European levels of vacation with American IT pay and no mandatory overtime. I get paid to do training, attend conferences, and get certs and CPEs built into my regular hours. I drive around and look at parking lot lights at night, making sure there are no outages. I don't fix it, I report it in an app, and the guys with the bucket truck show up later. It's part of the overall service my company provides. It's a monthly fee, and I pretty much have a set list of properties I visit either once a month or once a quarter. The pay isn't exceptional, but I basically get paid to listen to podcasts, so no complaints here. They also pay mileage, properly, so no tax. Maybe not exactly an answer to the question, but yeah, there's someone that does that. I used to work for a landlord doing maintenance on his properties. I had free rent and made $3K a month. This was late 90s into the early 2000s. It was a good gig. I had a truck he gave me. I would go around mowing lawns, shoveling snow, light repairs. Any major repairs he sent to the contracting company he owned, I'd call them and a guy would be over a few hours, problem out of my hands.